My name is Marie Orton. I am an assistant professor of Italian at Truman. I've been here for 10 years. This is my 7th time teaching JBA, and it's a program I love very much. I believe in it very profoundly, and so I'm always happy to teach JBA. The course I've been teaching is called Italian Language and Culture. It's actually 2 courses. In the morning, we have an intense language course, and so for 3 hours in the morning, the students from the very first day hear and write and respond to me exclusively in Italian. I do this partly because when they take college level language, this is the kind of method they will encounter. And I do it also because it's a very effective way of teaching language. So the morning is a language course. Then after they come back from lunch and they've recovered from hearing all this Italian, in English we talk about Italian culture and civilization. We begin with the contemporary period. We talk about what Italy looks like now. It's very useful for dispelling a lot of the kind of stereotypes people have about Italians that are usually informed by the media or that scene in Lady and the Tramp and Walt Disney, where you have this stereotypical idea of Italians who own a restaurant and that kind of thing. We dismantle a lot of those stereotypes of what Italy is like, what Italians are like, and then we work backwards and end with the Roman Republic. And then we go through the major art movements, the major historical movements. We talk about how Italy got unified. We talk about Italy during World War II. They read first source information about all of those periods. They read about the major persons in those periods, and they read about, and we do activities about, as I say, the major art movements, about neorealism in film, about opera, about music, about major art in the Renaissance, and those kinds of things. We move backwards. The students are assigned to do 2 projects. One is about a region of Italy, and there are 20 regions in Italy. Some students get to do 2 regions. They have to do a research project about the history, the cuisine, and what makes that region specific, what it makes it culturally distinct from other regions. And their second project is something they personally choose, some aspect of Italian culture they find interesting that they want to pursue, and they make those 2 presentations. You can't talk about Italy and not talk about food. So on Saturdays we cook, but food infuses other things we do in the class. So the Saturday days, I feel like the students have, it's important to understand that the students have already read quite a bit about food and done a lot of research about food before we go then and actually prepare the food. And the first Saturday, they learn, usually they make pizza and focaccia, they learn to make bread, but they've also learned the science of what makes bread rise. They learn the technique of tossing dough in the air, and they learn about what kinds of toppings are acceptable in Italy, what's acceptable pizzeria, etiquette, and all those kinds of things. So it's very contextualized in terms of culturally what that would mean and what sharing food means. And on our second Saturday, when they cook, they do a full 5-course meal. They make it and they have time to consume it in the morning. They're very, very fast, and so they have in miniature a kind of experience of that communal group cooking that's so central to Italian culture. The other activities that we do are all, I will say, kind of group specific. I really watch what the people in the group that year are most interested in, and we do other kinds of activities relative to that. They take a tour of the city. Lots of them in the morning, those kinds of activities are related to language, and so they do scavenger hunts, we had a market where they go and buy and sell things, and things like that that are to practice using the language. Universally, they like the thing that scared them the most. They like only being exposed to the language in the morning part of the class, and that's the part that's the most intimidating, and that's also the part they end up being most enthusiastic about. It's a part that frustrates them the most, it's a part that challenges them the most, and by the time they finish this 3-week course, they're very functional. They can write 2 full pages of Italian, 3 full pages. They can produce quite a bit of accurate language, and I think that's very affirming to them to see how much they could accomplish. They rose to this challenge. I think I would say, for me, within the class, what I find very important for the students is for them to see that kind of growth, but also for them to understand how connected language and culture are. That's why I like to teach the class this way, because what we practice in the morning becomes what they study about in the afternoon, becomes what we do as activities in other ways. And I feel that that kind of interconnectedness between language and culture is really essential and really valuable to them. And I would say, in terms of what I want the students to take away from the course, definitely an appreciation for foreign language in general, an appreciation for culture in general. I'm so pleased, this group very much so, but groups in the past, but I have to say this group very much, they're very insightful and they're very analytical in looking at cultures. I've been so pleased as they've been doing their presentation preparation, their research areas, how much they relate those things to their own culture, how much they make very insightful, very perspicacious kinds of comments about cultural differences and those kinds of things. They've been to me, that's been a very exciting thing to see in this class. I also feel like one of the most important things they learn is how to study. We talk a lot in the afternoon sessions and during the study hall time about how they study best, because they're learning thousands of words of vocabulary in this 3-week period. And so it becomes very essential for them to understand how they study best. We use every kind of method that I have learned from graduate school through all my years of teaching. And as I tell my students, this is think of this class as a kind of buffet where there's lots to try. I want you to try it all. I don't expect you to consume everything here. We're not expecting complete mastery, but I want you to try everything. One of the most valuable things I would say in this group and in every past group I've had, they learn how they study, and I feel like that is essential. That is something I hope to give my students, that they will take with them through everything that they study in their future. In this class, there are 2 things we never say. We never say something's weird, that we always say it's different. Something culturally different is different. And we never say, if I go, we say, when I go. And they've enjoyed that.
Fantastic.